sorry it's been a few weeks since I posted my last video, but I've had technical issues. I haven't had a tripod, and it's hard to film without one. I got one now, so that's not a problem. This is going to be the first episode of the weekly rundown, which is basically a series I'm going to do of me just talking about my movies I watched throughout the week, and I'm going to list them from least favorite to favorite. And in front of me, I have my paper wrote down of all my star ratings of the films, so I'll keep kind of glancing down to give you those star ratings. But I'm like 3 weeks behind, so I'm going to probably jump out 3 of these like this week, and then it'll just be like a weekly thing. I have other videos planned for throughout the week as well, so we'll go with those too. I own a lot of the movies I watch, but some of them I don't, and the ones I don't own, I'll put a picture of on the screen. So, the ones I do, of course, I'll show the movie. But let's get going. Number 12 is Beethoven's Third. This movie is a kid's film. Bottom line, it's a kid's film. The acting's very cheesy. It's made for kids. The plot isn't that complicated. Like I said, it's made for kids. I gave it a 2 out of 5 on the star rating, just because I guess it's because it's Beethoven. And the Beethoven films I grew up with, this one kind of had a little bit of that feel. I mean, they try to keep it connected with the same family-ish. I mean, they're their cousins, but still, it's not that good. Coming in at number 11 is Confessions of a Sorority Girl. This is from a 10-movie set that Stars did in 94. It was called like Rebel Highway or something. But basically what it was they took a bunch of like, oh, not a bunch, it was like 10 films that they took from like the older style movies from the 50s and stuff that were really low budget, and they redid them and modernized them a little bit, but of course they're still based in the 50s. This one, for me, felt kind of like a TV movie. Some of the plot was rushed. It seemed like they were trying to get it in that time limit area of like an hour and a half or so. I don't know how long they had for these movies, but some of it seemed rushed. The acting was okay for the most part, but it wasn't that great. I give it 2.5 stars. Coming in at number 10 is another one of those Rebel Highway movies. I'm slowly buying all these. They're kind of hard to get my hands on because some of them are out of print, but as I buy them, I'm going to watch them, and then I review on Letterboxd too, but I don't do a lot of like long reviews of movies. This movie barely beat Confessions of a Sorority Girl. Confessions of Sorority Girls, my bad. But with this one, the acting was not that good. But I like it because it kind of had that rebel vibe, and it was interesting to see a movie based in the 50s with kind of that kind of vibe. But other than that, it was alright, worth the watch. As with the other one, seemed rushed in places. I give it 3 stars. Coming in at number 9, funny, on the first episode of the weekly rundown, this movie, I believe I actually bought it at Walmart in the $5 bin, like a year or 2 after it came out. So that tells you one thing. It wasn't the greatest film. They were trying to build off of The Rock's success in WWE and other films, I think. It was alright. He has his shirt in it that he seems to always wear in all his movies. It wasn't the greatest. I feel like The Rock was still coming into his self for movies, I guess. But I give it 3 stars as well. Coming in at number 8 is 17 Again. This movie. It's basically like a weird version of Freaky Friday, but without the kid and parent swap. It's fun. It's really fun. The storyline is basically dad felt like he threw his life away or something, but in the end he finds out it was all worth it. It was one of those moral movies. But the comedy's funny. Some of the actors are funny in the film. Zac Efron actually did a pretty good job. I give him that. I give that movie 3.5 stars. Okay, coming in at number 7, I'm going to grab this case again. It's Beethoven's Second. Now, this one was better than the third. It's still not up there with the first. The first one's always going to be a really good movie. I grew up with those movies. I'm a 90s kid, so of course I grew up with all those. It kept the original cast, which is amazing. I love it when films do that. And kids' movies, it's really hard for them to keep the original cast because kids age and all that. So, with that, the plot was alright. You could tell they were trying to milk it for more money. But I give it 3.5 stars. Coming in at number 6 is The Losers. Now this film, my God. It's not a great movie at all. But the cast is kind of funny if you look at it. A lot of the main actors have gone on to do a lot more comic films or TV series. It's interesting. The comics better. Of course, the comics better. It's usually better than the movie. But it's a fun ride. It's basically that's all there is to it. It's a fun ride. I suggest it for anyone that likes kind of action and a little bit of comedy, but there's not a lot of comedy in it. It's more just rugged action, I guess. I give that one 3.5 stars as well. Okay. Coming in at number 5, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. I read all of these books when they came out, pretty much. I don't think I ever finished it. I don't think I finished book 13. Or 12, maybe. I don't know. But when that came out, I was so stoked. I was like, those books are so good. And then they only did like the first 3 books in the movie, and they wrapped the movie up, and they never went anywhere with it. Pretty sad. I, for one, enjoy that film a lot. I know a lot of people don't like it. They like the Netflix series way more, which I'm not gonna like bash that series or anything, but to me, this is more my style of it. I don't know. But I like this film. It's really good. I give it 4 stars. Hate me. Okay. Coming in at number 4 is Mrs. Doubtfire. This movie, I believe I actually seen it in theaters. I'm not quite sure. I was only like 4 when it came out. But I enjoy it. I've seen it a lot. I watched it on VHS. I grew up with Robin Williams. A lot of his films were movies I remember as a kid. So, there'll be a lot of his films on here that I review. Kind of, in my weekly rundowns. But I enjoy it. It's funny. It's sad. It shows the struggles dads have in the world to see their kids and when they try to make it right and everything. It's a good family film, which is kind of out there for family, but still. Okay, these next three films were so close for me. It's hard to decide which was number one, but this is the way I broke it down. Number 3 is Shrek. This film was one of my first movies I ever got on DVD. I freaking love Shrek. It's a kids' film that isn't all kids, if that makes sense. They have a lot of adult humor in it, and it makes it really worthwhile. It's just fun. I love it. The sequels start going downhill, but Shrek is a really good film, and I recommend that for everyone. Coming in at number 2, Shutter Island. What to say about Shutter Island? This movie really puts you for a mind trip. I mean, some of it's pretty predictable, of course, but it does put you for a trip. The ending is supposed to be like a twist ending, but how I see it is I believe he knew, and he just couldn't live with himself, if that makes sense. If you've seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, my bad. Shrek and Shutter Island both have 4.5 stars. Coming in at number 1. This is a movie I actually don't watch. I don't own. I watched it on Daily Wire or whatever, Ben Shapiro's channel. It's Run, Hide, Fight. This movie's got a lot of controversial stuff. People are saying it's a right-wing movie, which it's not really. It's just they're not scared to push boundaries. I mean, right when the kid comes in, they say this is a trigger warning, and that can be taken multiple ways. The film it's controversial, let's just say. I don't want to say words that could get my channel in trouble. So, I don't know. It's about high school. It's Die Hard in high school, basically. And the main character has to run, hide, and fight. It's literally in the name. She has some issues. She lost her mom, and that's kind of given throughout the whole movie. She deals with that. Her father's there, dealing with it in his way. But in the high school, it gets a little crazy. It's out there. It's worth a watch, and don't go into it thinking, oh, this is a right-wing movie. They're just trying to put their agenda. Just watch it as itself. A movie. It's art. Watch the movie. Give it a chance. And don't look at it as political. That's the problem with a lot of films nowadays. Everyone tries to find the political in everything. Just watch it as art. And with that, I'm wrapping this episode up. I will be back with another episode shortly. Probably post it tomorrow or the next day. I don't know how I'm going to do these 3. But other than that, take it easy, and this was the weekly rundown. Bye.